What does this mean for capital? I think there are 3 points. Number one is the business model for investing has changed. So people that have capital, how they are deploying that capital has changed. The second, organizations are more capital efficient, meaning the hurdle is lower, so they need less money to start producing work. And the last piece is that now there's more opportunities in that long tail for smaller organizations to exist. They don't all have to be big hits, but because oftentimes we're dealing with systems that aren't easy to see and institutions that may or may not exist truly as institutions, it's harder to see how big the opportunity is. And so it's harder to understand how much capital to deploy. So let's talk about each one of those. So first, the business model for investing has changed. So I think this we can all see. Back in the day when you had capital and you wanted to invest it, the thing you would do is you would contact a broker and you would say, put my money to work, and he would start investing it, and he would ask you questions about how much risk you were willing to take, and he would put together an investment portfolio for you. You can do that yourself online. Connect to your bank with Scottrade and start buying and selling shares. And an interesting piece, at least interesting for me, was that this is a regulated industry, right? So if you can have a disruptive business model inside a regulated industry where the resistance to change is huge, this can happen anywhere. So the second piece is the business model for investing has changed. So if you need money, there was a time and place. You went to extremely wealthy individuals when you could find them, and banks. And now there are organizations designed around getting wealthy people's money together and putting it at work. Hedge funds and VCs, right? Voyager Capital is the picture on the screen. Now there's also groups of loose affiliations of individuals that themselves don't do investing. The individuals do the investing, but these associations bring people together to make it easier. And that's like angel groups, for example, like the Keiretsu Forum. And nowadays there's a lot of microlending. There's microlending sites, there's microlending groups. Here's a picture of Microlending Club on Facebook. And then they meet from time to time in real life. Part 2. Businesses are more capital efficient, meaning they require less capital to get to work. Let's say you wanted to make a movie. And a movie, you'd have to write a script, and then you would take that script around and you would try to sell it. And you would take it to Paramount, for example. And if they bought it, they would set up, they'd get all the cameras, they'd get a director, etc., etc., etc. And then they would make magic. Well, in that sort of middle tier, there's groups of investors who are used to making those sorts of investments, right? Who have experience making investments in movies, who are now getting themselves together rather than going through, dumping their money into an organization like Paramount. Now they're taking their money outside and saying, we want to invest in independent film, right? We want to invest in directors or writers who have brought together their ideas and go direct, right? Take out that middleman. And then lastly, there's places like Kickstarter, where if you've got a good idea and you just need a little bit of capital, you can put your idea online. Kickstarter is a place where you go and you can review ideas or you can place your ideas. And if you're reviewing ideas, you see which one you like and you can put it on your credit card, and the investments can be as small as $100. Part 3. Think about the internet. There was a huge amount of investment over a number of years to actually make the infrastructure of the internet. One of the big companies that made advantage of that investment is Facebook. Google, right, in their area of expertise, Amazon in retail, Facebook in their area of expertise. That's a big opportunity, right? Took much less capital to get started, isn't as big an opportunity as the internet itself, because the internet also holds Amazon and Google, etc., etc., etc. But Facebook is a place too. And on Facebook, there's games, for example. Farmville, Mafia Wars, these are produced by a company called Zynga, right? Who's dependent upon Facebook, who's dependent on the internet. So these virtual goods organizations, right, that happen in Zynga, that happens in Facebook, that happens on the internet. And you start getting degrees of separation from the original source of value. And so you can see that each one has got to be a factor of, right, of the previous derivative. So it's just something to think through, is how far down that path are you? That tells you something about your idea, and it tells something about how much to invest in the idea.